It's really thorough
I've been trying to bring little bits down.
All right, here we are. We're here. We're fixing our hair as you do get on a live stream.
So far, no horrible echo.
Is there an echo?
Oh, is it echoing now?
Oh, no, I think you're okay.
Okay. If we echo, I'll put in my earphones.
So I see Amber's here. Good morning. Hey, Amber, do we sound okay on this day?
Can anyone hear any echoes or anything awful? It sounds okay to me. Slight echo, maybe.
I am now super aware that I've got this microphone here. I feel like I've got to get in on it. So it looks like we sound so far so good.
Brilliant.
So far so good. So I guess we'll just dive right in. So hello everybody. Happy Friday. And Sarah and I are here again for another week ahead astrology forecast. And my title is right this time. It is the week of May 31st.
It is.
Christina is here as the Sisters Enchanted, saying hello to everybody. And so we are here and ready to go. So if you don't know me, I'm Anna with the Sisters Enchanted. I'm the co-founder here. And I'm with Sarah, our co-teacher in Expedition Astrology and Team Sisters Enchanted team member extraordinaire. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
So, I guess just up and away, Sarah. Let us have it.
Okay, well, I know Jackie. I don't know if Jackie's listening. Jackie always puts on this. She always says, "Hold on to your hats" when we talk about astrology, and this is a week to say, "Hold on to your hats." There's a lot going on. It's gonna be like challenging, but as we know, when we know what's coming, when we know the energies, we can work with them. Now, am I echoing now?
You're not. You did cut out for like a second. Maybe put in your headphones just for good.
Okay, I'm gonna put in my headphones. But I haven't got like little buds. I've just got these ones. Let me just quickly put my headphones in. Okay.
One of our team members has like these headsets with like a microphone attached to like gaming headphones. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of jealous of the gaming headphones, and I kind of want a pair, so I don't have to like do this into my side microphone.
I have a mini. I've got a mini microphone here, but I don't use it because it's not as good. Okay, so is that better?
I think so. I mean, I can hear you okay, so I think we should just go for it.
We had such dreadful sound last week. We're just paranoid about it, and we have Mercury Retrograde starts today, so that's kind of like making me even more nervous. And because Mercury Retrograde's in Gemini, so we have Mercury Retrograde in Gemini. So what could be more problematic for our communications right now? So Mercury Retrograde in Gemini, its own sign, so all things communication could go a little haywire. And that does include things like tech, anything that involves kind of like anything that involves like electricity. I can hear feedback. Is that just me?
I hear something, but I can still hear you. So
okay, so I've got my earphones in, so that's strange. But yeah, so anything that involves like any impulses, like electronics, nerves, all these kind of things could go a little bit haywire. And our experiences, because of course Gemini loves all these different experiences in the world, that could be a little bit haywire too. So things like if you're arranging to meet a friend somewhere and you could just get that your wires crossed and you could be in different places, all those kind of things. We've been talking about this whole house sale thing, and I think potentially we might exchange contracts sometime next week, which is I was really wanting not to do in Mercury retrograde. So we have Mercury retrograde in Gemini, so it's going to impact our communication, our learning, logical thinking, anything that involves signals, all these kind of things. And I don't understand why I'm hearing feedback, because I do have my earphones in and I know that there's nothing coming out of my computer right now.
Well, I just had Chad hand me his headphones, so I'm going to put these in and we're going to just keep
talking.
Keep talking and see if
me check my settings. Audio speaker.
We're so good at tech.
There we go. It's Mercury retrograde. We can blame Mercury retrograde.
Let's.
So
Let's pretend this didn't happen last week and that we're just in a permanent Mercury retrograde. And
exactly.
Oh, there she is. And now she's in my head.
Mine not really getting kind of it in my earphones. Speaker, external headphones built in. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
We are trying. I am fortunate that the tech guy here at the Sisters Enchanted is in office.
You are.
And that also I'm married to him so that I can steal his headphones.
You're in my ears now. It's definitely coming into my headphones now. So we shouldn't be having any echo.
So hopefully we're good.
So
Happy Mercury retrograde.
I know StreamYard seems to be really sensitive to echo more than anything else. So I've been doing lots of research since last week.
We always aim to get better.
We do. So it's going to affect communication, our learning, logical thinking, all these kind of things. But of course, we know that we can work with retrogrades, and it's a really good opportunity for us to see things in that new perspective. For us to, like, when retrograde, the planets kind of appear to us from the way that they are in relation to the Earth to kind of slow down, stop, backtrack. So I think that's a really good mantra for any retrograde. Slow down, stop, backtrack, look at things on a different perspective. So if there's anything in your in your communication, in your learning, in your experiences that perhaps you need to have a little look at, a little bit of shadow work, it's a great time for that. And again, as we always say, and we're going to say there's quite a lot going on this week, so we're going to say this over and over again, have a look and see in your birth chart. So where is Gemini in your birth chart? That might be where this retrograde is going to impact you the most, and where you might want to just think, how is my logical thinking going on in this area of my life? How is my communication? And of course, communication works both ways. We get perception. Am I perceiving other people properly? All these kind of good stuff. And we can really work with that. And it's a really good time just to look on things with a new perspective. So Mercury retrograde went to retrograde as we speak today, and it will be retrograde till June 22nd, this time all the way through in Gemini.
Oh,
so there we go.
I know. Well, Sarah, we're getting lots of feedback now that we sound way better. So I'm going to buy myself headphones. I don't know what kind these are that he uses, but these ones don't hurt my ears too badly. But I am at least happy. And we take these Astro Forecasts, or at least I do. I take these times to reflect on myself as well.
Yes.
And I know that, yes, me and you are having some similar contractual outside of work things happening. And I did take the time this morning to make sure I reached out to everybody who is supposed to be on team, help Anna buy a house, and make sure that like the communication is really clear, because everybody's been so quiet. And I guess like this is like a normal quiet time in the realm of the process. But I was like, can we just like have a gathering and make sure that there's nothing that I'm supposed to be doing right now? And no, I don't want to find out that like I dropped a ball, at the end of the week that could have been avoided. So I did tighten up some communications this week. Everybody is communicating now in like a group situation, which makes me feel a little bit better. So hopefully they're communicating clearly. And I know that for me, my Gemini is in my 8th house with Chiron. So I am always a little bit aware of any kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we don't get that process. In the UK, it's so complicated, and it's just this big. Like I said, my house was I accepted the offer 7 months ago, and there's been all these problems with the chain and all this kind of stuff. And like I just keep getting like, oh, but the solicitor says this. And so I did the same. I reached out to my estate agent today, and she said, oh, he says any day now. And I said, last week you said any day now. Any day now means any day now. And we're still any day now. But we can't ever communicate directly, which is really frustrating. But I have Gemini in my house 10 and 11. So communication with things to do with work, business, and the things I'm trying to achieve. I guess I need to communicate with my editor and say, I need 1 more week, please, on my book.
Right. See, I'm concerned because we're looking at like 8th house and other people's money. And, you know, when you're looking at, you know, house buying, you're looking at other people's money, you know, and super duper super stressful. And I'm very over paranoid and I overthink everything. But apparently we're all good to go. But we're like on like the deadline of like when everything was supposed to be done, and we're waiting on like one more step, which is out of our hands. And it's like, well, if you don't get this step done in like 2 days, then we're going to have to like look at some negotiation things here, and it's very stressful for me. And I feel like it's very out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, the same with mine. It's completely it's not in the hands of me or my buyer, it's the hands of her buyer, and it's all really frustrating.
Yes,
Tell me about it.
So pesky Mercury retrograde in Gemini. We're just gonna have to, and all of you, keep that in check. Check where Gemini is in your chart. See where your communications might be going a little haywire. And just because it's Mercury retrograde doesn't mean to like stop life as we know it, right? And that's usually the information you get when it's a Mercury retrograde or something astrologically is happening, is that it's the general idea to like stop.
Yeah.
Like, don't sign anything, don't do anything crazy. And I'm all about getting a little bit crazy when you're not supposed to, you know. My husband and I thought it would be really funny to get married on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. He wanted to get married on like a leap day so that like we didn't have to celebrate every year. And I was like, I'm just going to forget if you do that. So I'm all for, you know, not stopping your life, taking a deep breath, but just making sure that like you're checking in with yourself. You are clearly communicating. You're communicating directly to the source and not other sources. And so, like I said, in my situation now, there's communication with everybody who's supposed to be communicated with, and it's not from me to one person to that person. It's all together. And to just make sure that you're being really clear and not calling the secretary when you need to talk to the person beyond, you know.
I think if you don't understand something, ask. I think, and like if you are going to do signing contracts like we might both be doing, just read it really carefully, take your time, but just and ask questions. And if we might misunderstand even our friends. I have a lot of Gemini in house 11. Gemini rules, starts in house 10, but it rules my house 11. So if I don't if I'm like feel like having a miscommunication with my friends or with anything to do with society, society and my role in society, we just have to ask, you know. Ask for clarity. But we have Saturn in retrograde as well, which we didn't touch on last week, but Saturn went into retrograde on May 23rd and stays in retrograde until October the 11th. So we also have Saturn in retrograde as well in this week. So this is for the good part of the year now, and that's in Aquarius. So this again, where is Aquarius in your chart? And Saturn in retrograde, I mean, Saturn always wants us to face up to our truth and to stand up to our responsibilities. So Saturn in retrograde is really like, where are you not being true? Where are you not standing up to your responsibilities? Like, this is time to face your truth. So Saturn in Aquarius, I feel we've had this wonderful age of Aquarius that started at the beginning of the year, and we're all kind of like talking about how this means we should be thinking differently, challenging some status quos, doing things differently, perhaps standing up for some people in society that need our help, doing things for the good of society, for the good of the group, for the good of the world. So I feel like this retrograde is really about, where are you not doing that? Where should you be doing that more? Where are you kind of like not heeding that kind of like your place in all of this? So what responsibilities you need to face up to, wake up calls, particularly in the sense of doing things differently and using that Aquarius energy, I feel. So
can you see me sitting here looking at my chart? I'm just like, I know I see Amber Whiskey's in the comments, who is, astrology is a member of Expedition Astrology and is like astrology powerhousing in that community.
Yes.
She's like on it. And I'm just sitting here and then I'm reminding myself that like almost all of my houses are intercepted. And then I have to like look back at Gemini also through my 7th house and Aquarius in my 3rd and 4th. And then I'm like thinking about this as it applies to all the life situations. And I'm just like,
yeah,
I want to just say not nice things. But like I said, as I know that these are important things to think of and not have it just stop.
Exactly.
But now I'm looking and I'm even more distracted by life than I was before. So you should just continue because I'm just like doing this, like looking at my chart, like, oh no.
I'm going to tell you something even more now. So while we have this Saturn in retrograde, we also have, I don't know if any of you were reading the blog before we started doing the lives, when we did the blog right back at the beginning of the year, I said this was the biggest astrological happening of this year was the Saturn square Uranus. And we had one back in January. It doesn't even happen for several years, but this year we have it 3 times. Saturn square Uranus is kind of there in the orb of the square for the entire year, but because of retrogrades and because Saturn has gone into retrograde, it's pushed itself back into the direct square. So on Wednesday we get the direct square again, and then we get another direct square in December. So it was this kind of like cycle. We could think about things because what Saturn square Uranus, they call it the bone breaker. Because you've got Uranus's kind of rebellious power, and you've got Saturn's structures. And when we talked about in the last few weeks, this kind of square, like a boxing ring, so you've got them bumping up and it corners and like face squaring up again and pushing each other into corners, and this kind of like energy where they're kind of trying to sort of come together but pushing each other away and all this kind of mayhem. So they call it the bone breaker because of course Saturn does rule bones, and it could like it is associated with physical bone breaks in some situations, but we're not really thinking about physical bone breaks. They used to, in medieval times, they used to say this was kind of like, well, when this could cause broken bones, literally. But when you think about Saturn has these structures, and Uranus comes in and rebels and smashes those structures, but then Uranus, it can change things for the better, because change isn't always bad, and then create new structures. So we can use this energy to think, well, where are some structures in my life that I really kind of need to break and change and mold and create new structures? So it can be associated with abrupt changes, but we need abrupt changes quite often. There's a lot of situations in the world and in our lives where we need these abrupt changes. So this perfect square it's been since 2001. We've had this perfect square, and this year we get 3 of them, and we are now in the second one. So I said at the beginning of the year, you think about something that you want kind of long-term change to be crystallized and created into new structures. So now we're in the kind of like the second phase of this. But if you didn't like look at this in January, that's completely fine. So you might kind of like during Saturn square Uranus, you might kind of feel this kind of clash between your need for structure and your urge for freedom and spontaneity, and kind of this kind of squaring off between those things, between this need for structure, this need for spontaneity and stability. And it can come to a head during this kind of, so we've got this going on all year, but when we get these kind of direct squares, it can kind of come to a head. You might find rules and limitations more challenging. And this kind of, like I say, tension between wanting freedom, but also feeling that life might be too chaotic if you go for the freedom. You might get sudden unexpected events that might force you out of old habits that you've had. So it can be quite erratic, it can be spontaneous, but we can work with it. We can work with it and bring these changes and innovations and turn them into solid structures. So you might want to think, what progress have I made on anything that has that kind of energy, where I have that kind of like battle between the urge for freedom and the urge for structure, or where I want to bring innovations to change some kind of structure in my life and to change like careers or relationships or health, or even just the way you do your day-to-day things in your day-to-day life and habits and so forth. What progress have you made from January? Where are you now? Where do you want to be in December? And how can you use this energy to make changes during this week?
Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like I have made no changes since January. I think that I'm still in that fog of baby fog and all consuming energy towards that little person, which I feel like should have been started shifting out of that at this time in his life, but it seems like it's nowhere at an end. But I think that that's just a problem of the times. It's a condition of the times. But I think it's interesting too that with all these things that are happening and how much we need to pay attention to communications and things of that nature, that we also have this drive to like break down barriers and be spontaneous, which feels like you're kind of in this place where you don't want to be handed like contracts or communications. Instead, you want to kick them out of somebody's hands and be like, no, I'm out of here and do what I want. But at the same time, we have to be present while also trying to make changes and be a little bit more spontaneous.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I have Aquarius in my house 7 and I have Taurus in my house 10, midheaven. So this is kind of like, there is, I mean, obviously a house of relationships, and this house that we're buying together, you know, it's the first time for a very long time in my life I've bought a house with a man in a contractual relationship. And I think I definitely am feeling that kind of like, my freedom. Do I want to just like I'm an independent woman who's always done it by herself, and now I'm going to buy a house with someone. It really is.
I hear that because I have never, I pointed this out the other day, I have never put my name on something with another person in my life. And I'm like, do you know how scary this is for me? Except for a birth certificate, you know, I was like, I have never, ever financially connected myself on paper to another person. And this is like a huge deal for my brain. And I'm not even like super protective over like my own personal, you know, funds or things like that. Like they're just mine. And I just, you know, but I was like, this is like a huge deal for me to have like that much trust on something so big like that. So Sarah, we're going through a lot of similar things.
We really are. Yeah. We really are. Yeah. And then also like for me, my son, who is, so I have the same sort of like, but he's grown up now. He's growing up. He's nearly 16. Well, he is 16. He's nearly 17, and he now lives with his dad because during the first lockdown, because I'm severely asthmatic, like intensive care of a cold. So COVID was a real worry, and he has had 2 multi-organ transplants. So, and my partner in this house here, he had a very elderly mum who sadly passed away in the first lockdown, which is why we're buying this house that's been in their family for 80 years now, so we can like keep it in the family with him. And so much change, and so like, and I've really struggled because it just turned out then that William stays with his dad now, and it's kind of a good thing. It is a good thing because his age, it's good for him. And my daughters keep saying, Mum, you've had to give up everything to care for him, because I was like a full-time intensive care children's nurse with intravenous drugs and stuff, and he doesn't need that, touch wood, because since his second transplant. And like, it's time for his dad to have to take responsibility and for you to have that freedom. So but it is that kind of, this is bang on this square for me, because it is that kind of, I really want the freedom, but I really don't, because I want that back. I want my family back with me. But then, I really want the freedom, like at my age, you know, my girls are saying, come on, Mum, just like, I'm like quite a lot older than some of the other Sisters Enchanted team. I did have my big 50, so but I'm very young in heart. So it's just that kind of like, you know, just live free, but it's hard. It's hard. So I am really feeling that this tour, and it does kind of that, it does affect kind of like my career and what I'm doing, because now I live writing, and all the writing I do is Sisters Enchanted content. I don't have I just can do it all the time. I have the freedom to do all that in it. Yeah. So I'm feeling this square massively this year.
Yes, that is a lot. It looks like a lot of people in the comments have big things like that happening too, like houses and things happening. And I know even for me, and obviously this is not the same because I have a young son at home, so almost 7 months now, so not even like that young, but just because of the times and just how things have rolled out, and this time I've been able to be home because my oldest son is going to be 10 this year, and I didn't stay home, and I had to go right back to work, and I had to rely on a lot of people to help raise him. And that this situation is so much different because the level of like attachment and how in demand I am at home, and when I get out for a few minutes I'm like super anxious, like do I have to hurry up and get home, because like that level of attachment is so real. But at the same time, how important it is to take care of yourself and have a deep breath and have that moment away for your own self.
Exactly.
And how hard that is.
It is.
Yeah.
I will add up though, for people that are thinking concerned, my son's dad does live like 5 minutes on a little tram ride away from me. Like I see William all the time. I just don't have. So I bet I'd probably speak to him more, because he doesn't just when I'm with him, we're actually in present together. He's not just a teenager in his bedroom with his big TV ignoring me like he was at home. He's actually like, when we're together, we're actually doing things together. So it actually is better in some ways too. It's very strange. But I know when we did co-witching with the eclipse moon, so many people were sharing kind of big changes. So we're feeling this in the community so much. And then the sun is actually trying Saturn. The sun is trying this. So our sun, our center of ourselves and our creativity and our ego, we keep saying ego is a good thing in astrology. It's not this. We don't mean, oh, you're egotistical. We mean the center of who I am, who you see, and who, that's trine with Saturn. So that's the energy flowing really well between those two planets. So we get sun trine Saturn this week as well. So, and that's interesting, because this is where we're really going to want to feel kind of like, we say Saturn is our efforts and our work and our responsibilities and our authorities and all those kind of things. We're going to kind of feel that we want recognition for that. When the sun's in Saturn, we might want to take on more responsibilities. We might kind of feel like we can move easily towards our goals as well. We might kind of feel like, we can, this kind of like where we want to be kind of like seen to be. It's a clearer path to that kind of Saturn sense of responsibility, and we kind of want to be recognized for that. But remember, Saturn's in retrograde, so that means that this trine, you might not feel it as much. It might be like you might have to dig inside to see if you feel like you're not being recognized for things that you do, or you don't recognize yourself, what you've achieved, and these kind of things. You might need to kind of dig in a little bit to find that during this retrograde.
But it's there. Yes, and we do talk about that a lot in astrology, that word ego has such a bad attachment to it. But everybody has an ego, and it's whether or not your ego is healthy or not that shows the shadowy aspects or the not so shadowy aspects of that.
Yes.
So that's nice that's kind of trying to play nicely with Saturn. And
that is nice.
Yeah.
So we have Tuesday of Mars opposite Pluto. That's quite an interesting one. That would be Tuesday for the rest of the week. So this is quite interesting, because this brings us quite an intensity that goes with that Saturn sun quite nicely, because this brings us quite an intensity around achieving our strongest desires. But we're talking about an opposition here, so we're talking about this kind of like pull. So we might kind of like feel a bit of internal battle within ourselves, that I want to do better than I am doing, and we might beat ourselves up a bit, so be careful. We might also feel a bit competitive, because Mars can be a bit competitive, that god of war. We might kind of and also remember, we've got Pluto seeks power, and Pluto can seek power through other people as well. So we could find that people are trying to take power from us and are looking for our weak spots to take advantage and to take power from us. But remember, we could be doing the same to people as well. So whenever we say these things, I'll be careful, because people might do this, and everyone goes away thinking, oh, I must be careful of these people taking my power. Well, actually, so will you receive and give in these kind of like aspects. So we must be a bit careful with whether you feel like there's any aspect of you that is being a bit competitive in how you want to move forward to achieve things, maybe stamping on people a little bit, maybe trying to find people's weak spots to take power from them so you can move forward towards your ambitions at their expense. You could feel people are doing that to you, but likewise, we could be doing it to people. Yeah. So that's something to be aware of with that one.
That is so important. And I will say that that is also something that, just as somebody who has practiced astrology readings and as somebody who has done tarot readings, how important it is that we hold that mirror up to ourselves.
Yes.
As well. Because I don't know how many times that I have mentioned in a tarot reading or an astrology reading, when you mention something like that about, you know, like a power exchange, or how you might be resorting to like emotional defense or things like that, how many people are like, oh, that's happening to me right now when this person does this to me. And you're like, okay, well, remember too that like there's two sides to this, and you have to remember your own responsibility here too. And that's so important, because we tend to not hold ourselves accountable for things, and how important it is that we look at ourselves with a clear lens, because we can't navigate a situation or try to change something without looking at ourselves first and seeing like why we're behaving a certain way, or why this is happening. Like the change starts with us.
It does. And that's, I think, quite often when you read kind of like horoscopes in magazines and online, they always say that kind of thing, beware of people doing this to you this week. But are we all having it done to us? How can we all have it done to us? Some of us, we're doing it too. So it, you know, and that's shadow work. That's what shadow work's all about. You know, it's not kind of like in astrology, it's not kind of, oh, dreadful, you're doing this, people. It's kind of why are you doing it? Like, if you kind of can recognize that, okay, do you know what, I think maybe I am a bit guilty of like treading over people's weak spots to get to where I want to go, but why? Okay, so let's go back and see, why am I doing that? Because none of us, you know, we all have these shadows, every single one of us. Like so we're rewriting our astrology content and writing a lot about shadows, and sort of like every single sign, like there's no malefic and benevolent planets, they all are both. Every sign, every planet, every house has its light and its shadow. Pluto is massively transformational. So this is kind of like this, you know, you can think, okay, so where's that power? What am I doing here? And then once you've worked it out, it's massively transformational. So you can like, you know what? I don't need to feel weak and feel like people take power of me to achieve my goals, because hang on, I've got the power inside me. So I'm just going to, you know, I don't need to have that exchange. I can get it all from inside me. So that's that's how you get your transformation.
Right. I know. And this is super side tangent-y and not at all specifically relevant to this conversation that we're having, but would it be a Sisters Enchanted live feed without a little bit of a sidestep and a tangent? Is that, and I did talk about this once in Exhibition Astrology on one of our Astro Jam sessions, because in astrology, traditionally, oftentimes we're so tied to that sun, masculine, father, moon, mother, feminine. And I remember that when I had my my son Jacob, the one who's going to be 10, I had him while I was already studying astrology. I had a teacher that I worked with. I had a small group of people that I worked with, and I was very much in my learning and had already previously been learning. And I remember when he was born, and I was sitting with a group of people that, you know, I was, you know, doing all the astrology goodness with. We were looking at his chart, and I remember being told that in his chart that I was very much like not the moon mother in his chart, and that I was very much more of like the sun and the solar energy, that more structured energy. And I remember how much of a hit to me that was, and being told that like I wasn't the nurturer in his astrological scope, and having to go back and sit and being like, well, well, I'm still his mom and I'm still nurturing him. And two, that even if my role for him is more solar, and now even having another, and I have 2 sons that are Scorpios. So I'm just you know, I have obviously have some things to learn and to instill. And I was like, how important is it, and what our responsibility it is to be nurturing 2 boys who are Scorpios, and in this time especially, how important, how much of a responsibility it is to make sure that I am nurturing their egos, to be healthy, and how important that is. And I had to really shake that, you know, that idea that I wasn't going to be what, like, is, I'm going to do air quotes, is expected of me, and how I ended up having this other role, and then to like have that sit in on me, and how important it was to have to help nurture 2 Scorpio boys to have really healthy egos. And I was like, that is such a call to action. That is such a nurturing role. You know, it's just, it just looks different. And I think that that's something in astrology that oftentimes we look at a chart, or we look at what's happening in our specific chart and what's happening in the sky and ourselves, and we tend to think that it's like this certain box that's cut out, you know, like, oh no, Pluto and Scorpio and Mars opposition Pluto and doom and gloom, and especially me, because of all of my Scorpio energy and all of my kids' Scorpio energy. And really the box is not that tight. You know, there's so many ways to look at it, and so many ways to be empowered by things that even on the surface look hard. And how much we learn from astrology when we're looking at it beyond the surface value, and we're looking at it beyond the original, you know, search of like, what does Scorpio mean? And you get that like 2-line sentence that makes you feel like, you know, like a lesser of, but just how deep astrology is, and how much you can learn, and how much you can reevaluate how you see yourself and your role in life, and your role in your own life by really looking.
Absolutely. It's just,
now you're frozen right after this moment that we had of deep reflection. We have lost Sarah for a minute, so we'll see if she refreshes herself. But that was my side tangent. And I don't know if Sarah, if you can hear me, you can always remove yourself from the feed and come back if it's needed. Otherwise, I do know that we have touched on all of the astrological happenings that are happening this week. We've touched on all of these things. And I'm just kind of peeking through the comments and just, you know, seeing that there's lots of people with big wins and a lot of people with hardships, and that everything is going to be different for everybody, and that you know, you just persevere in times, especially when there's retrogrades and so many things happening, that we just take it with a grain of salt and remember that we are responsible for ourselves, and to have clear communications, and to take deep cleansing breaths, and to just keep going through things the best that we can. And I see Sarah might be coming back. Yes, and I see somebody, I can't see who you are. Hi, Sarah. I see just Facebook user is saying that that her roles in her house are reversed, and that she feels very much reversed. So Sarah, welcome back. I know that we can wrap up because we're pretty much done, but you can come back and
we just got a couple more things. Yeah, the internet just completely, Mercury retrograde, see, our internet's just completely cut off across everything. And somebody else I just pinged and said the internet's just gone. So it's not us, it's the whole of the area. But I'm here on my phone, 4G, wonderful things, backups that we have these days. So just to kind of finish off on a bit more sort of gentle things, we have some Venus. So Venus square Jupiter, that is kind of like it's that blows up all that lovely love and all that beauty and all that kind of Venus stuff. But be careful that, because too much of a good things, you know, it could make us kind of, when we want to spend that time like chilling out all day with that blanket, pizza and Netflix, or we might be a bit over affectionate. So, but it's a love, that's a nice energy. And Venus moves into Cancer on Wednesday, so that kind of bringing all our sort of that lovely Venus energy into a nurturing way. So that's just a couple of lighter things to brighten up the end of that. Sorry about that. The internet, just like I say, just died out in the whole area. So
I had thought that we were done, and I'm looking back and I'm like, oh, we did miss Venus and Jupiter. So yeah, that is good. Some fresh air.
Yeah.
In the midst of some of the other things. Although we did get a little deep in the conversation, it seems like there's a lot happening, but a lot of, like you said, a lot of room to bust out of structures, to have some freedom, make sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's.
Yeah.
But that there is a lot of room for some other breeziness around all the other things that are happening.
Absolutely.
So that's really good. So any fine things to leave us with, Sarah, on this day?
I think we still have that. We've been talking about this so much, that kind of creativity, that kind of, because in that square, that Uranus square Saturn, you can bring a lot of creativity into that. And with the Venus Jupiter again, like beauty and art and all that kind of stuff. I think we're just still in a very, very creative time, but I think it's a good week to really think, where do I want to break down some structures that are holding me back or hindering me, or just where I want something different. I've done that structure has served me well even, but I want something different. I want something new. And this is a really good week to create those new structures, to begin to create those new structures.
I like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a week ahead for sure.
It is. Yeah, it's a week ahead for sure. Have a good week, everybody.
Yes, have a good week, everybody. And thank you all for being here for this week ahead Astro chat, minus as many tech issues. Woo, we're doing good. And we will be here next week at the same time for another week ahead astrology forecast. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
And
bye. Have a good week.